Welcome to the Ingredients for Success podcast. I'm Jackie Rizzo, and today we have the Product Development Director with Veyl Ventures joining us, John Lyon. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you guys for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about Veyl Ventures and what you all do, the services you provide?
Sure thing. Yeah, Veyl Ventures has an interesting start story, in my opinion. We started about 4 years ago. The company was started by Cody Lowe and Doug. And these two guys had a lot of history with doing some online business, not particular to the health and wellness space, but they were personally motivated by just the power of dietary supplements and functional foods to be able to help people. And so that kind of motivated them to team up together and start the company. And so the company started as NetBus Engineering. That was the initial holding name. And from that, they started the United Naturals brand, kind of believing first in the importance of gut health and digestive health. And so that line started, and that line was called United Naturals. And they quickly realized that it would help them as well to partner with a physician. So they partnered with physician Dr. Vincent Pedre. And unlike some other maybe sponsorships that I've seen in the past to other companies, which are great, being able to partner with an actual medical doctor was able to give the company a lot of good direction and a lot of boots on the ground feedback in terms of what people needed, what kind of solutions people were looking for, what kind of natural ingredients might best work. And so we were able to start, I think, from thinking about actual solutions and having a very clinical effect very immediately. And the process of thinking about how we formulated products. And that really has trickled down to our other brands. And so after starting United Naturals, they also thought about how could they take care of companion animals and work to start the Dr. Jeff's Pets line, where we similarly partnered with a vet, getting the same boots on the ground feedback for the food and nutritional needs that are fairly unique for dogs, very different, of course, than actual humans. And then most recently, we've been really excited by acquisition and development of the Dr. Kellyanne brand. And so Dr. Kellyanne, she has a lot of a pretty big following. She's been all over educating people about the power of bone broth, the importance of collagen, the importance of taking care of your joint, connective tissue, skin health. But even beyond that, she's done a lot of experimentation herself and in talking with her own patients as well, with what really works to help people, not just for the regular skin and connective things that we usually associate with collagen, those sort of benefits, but also just how really collagen and bone broth is an underutilized protein source. We understand that it's not considered a complete protein, but we know a lot of other cultures that are not the same as kind of our Western cultures consume bone broth, bone soups, and that helps them in a lot of different categories. And so we've tapped into a lot of how we can help people. And I think we're really just beginning with some of our other product formulations and food products that we can provide people as we continue to kind of explore, how that helps not just with skin and connective tissue, but also digestive health, potentially longevity. So we have a lot of projects in the works in that brand. So Veyl Ventures is a company that builds brands. We focus on these three, and we look to find solutions that are kind of within the wheelhouse of those practitioners that we partnered with, but we find exactly how they're actually helping people and turn that into products. So that's who we are.
That's pretty fascinating. So you said, before we move on, you said her name, it's Dr. Kellyanne. Is that right?
It is
Dr.
Yes.
Kellyanne. Okay, I find that very fascinating, her work, because we have our flagship ingredient, NEM, which is an eggshell membrane, which is for joint health. And when you mentioned bone broth, that's something that I hadn't really connected the two together. So I'm interested to do a little bit of research in that. It seems like you all do formulate quite a bit of products. As each year comes, it's just more and more products. As a product developer, what trends are you noticing right now in the industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure, like everybody else in my role and in our industry, everything that's happened with COVID has, of course, really impacted the landscape. Obviously, I think the most immediate impact that we saw was immune health. And just seeing how, ingredients like elderberry, it's no secret, elderberry, vitamin C, vitamin D, especially some of the ingredients that were beginning to, be researched for, their impact on side effects or, particular antiviral, antimicrobial effects. Those started to really shoot through the roofs. We were also able to see that in pricing and availability on my end. But more than that, I think what's been really interesting is the greater conversation in our society about preventative care. And I think that trend really started way back, no matter where people sit on the Affordable Care Act, there was this greater conversation about how do we manage cost and manage the way that our healthcare system works with regard to making sure that people have access to basic affordable healthcare. And I think that term was really to say, if we can catch things earlier, then how can we prevent things from happening downstream? And when we fast forward to 2020 with everything that happened with the virus, I think people have not just looked at their immune health, but they've started to look at their body as a whole and look at, all the implications because of the ways that the disease manifested itself. So people have started to pay attention to things like visceral fat, to their sugar levels, to their activity levels. And what that's meant, I think, for our industry overall is the importance of like a holistic wealth picture. And so I'm seeing and what we're kind of evaluating, and we've asked our own customers through various surveys what they're doing, what they're paying attention to, what they're looking for. And one of the big things is actually just snacking. Snacking is continuing on the rise, but people are looking for their snacks now to be functional. Whether that is looking now on the front of the packages for, whether they're eating fruits, veggies, applesauce, chips, popcorn, you name it. If there's some sort of, especially if it's considered a junk food, quote unquote, if there's a redeemable property to it, I think people are looking for that. So they're looking for something that, I'm eating this chocolate bar, but it definitely, gives me my fiber for the day. So being able to find those little benefits even in snack foods. And so I think that's a way in our industry, especially where sometimes working particularly with traditional capsules and tablets, we're able to tell the story of certain ingredients that, we might not be able to, do a huge, just big powder solution, like a powdered like protein shake or something where we combine, 8, 9, 10 functional ingredients, but we're able to do things with healthy snacks where we add 1 or 2 ingredients and really focus on educating the consumers about, what those things can do for their health. So snacking's been really huge. Another one that's continued to rise in our eyes is just the increased need for transparency. I think in the age of information, as people are able to Google things, find things, we've said this in many ways in our industry. Way back, I started in the industry early 2012, kind of right out of school. And of course, the buzzwords were, looking for a clean label. And a clean label has come to mean several things over the year. You have, concern for GMO ingredients, concern for organic, of course, we're able to find a way to do a certified natural, but free range pasture raised. I think most people want the idea to know that, as we learn about our food industry and learn that it indeed requires, of course, manufacturing and things like that, I think people want to be able to look at a package and get the idea as best as possible that, this came from a chef, this came from a farmer, this came from the ground, and there wasn't but so much manipulation to get us this product. And so that's continued to be a good thing, a good challenge, I think, in some regards, because as we know in the industry, we have to get ingredients and do certain things to get them into packages and sustain a healthy shelf life and get them to consumers. But consumers still want certain bubbles on the front that give them this idea of, we know exactly what's in this and we are familiar with what's in this. And so increased transparency is something huge. And then last thing that's also kind of particular to the pet industry, if you will, is just that pet ownership has gone up. As people, with coronavirus have found a need for additional companionship with 4-legged friends. We see a lot of increase in pet ownership. People think, yeah, this would be a great idea. But then you have a lot of people who are first-time pet owners and don't quite know what to do. So there's definitely a need for education with regards of, how to take care of the pet, how to look after their needs, how to care for even their social needs. Companion pets are also social creatures. And so that's harder to measure. You can't go and ask your cat or your dog, how are you feeling today and get an answer. We can't do a VAS kind of analog scale. We can't do those sorts of things. And so that's been a really another creative challenge for us to be able to figure out how do we actually take care of the social needs of pets and help owners that are dealing with those things as they're on Zoom calls and their pet is barking in the background. I'm sure we've all heard that before, or some pet animals that are not used to as much stimulation from people being at home, all the kids being at home, all the parents being at home full time. So that's provided another opportunity for us and another small trend where we have some of our customers asking for education and, of course, any products if we can help.
That's really great. I think that, now that we are mostly, I can't really say mostly, but a lot of us are working remotely still. I think it is a good thing to watch is that pet industry, what the market is going to do. Because like you had said in the beginning, they're part of our family. But when we're working at home, it just opens up a whole new door of how can I better? We're taking better care of ourselves. We're noticing that, but also noticing taking care of our animals as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the pet industry, what it looks like even within 6 months from now. I think it's just going to continue. The growth is there. It is going to continue to grow. Have you seen a trend in the application methods as well during, at least since you started 9 years ago from today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first started in the industry, I was working for a company where we did probably 70 to 75% of our business was sports nutrition specific. And so that category in of itself kind of maneuvers in its own way. And then probably about 25% was general health and wellness things and condition specific formulas that more mimics what I'm doing now. So if I pull on, what we were doing then, I think that there was in terms of applications, one of the big growth areas is just flavoring technology. So I think that there were a lot of kind of product ideas that I know that companies that I was aware of and colleagues in the industry weren't quite thinking of yet, just because we didn't have either the flavoring technology or some of the stability technology to take some of our ingredients that are either insoluble, but you need some help. We didn't have that kind of technology to put things into drinks, to put things in kind of shelf stable liquid packaging that, will require any sort of pasteurization process or high heat process. So now we're seeing the rise of, in our own self, of just people grabbing RTDs. That seems to have increased popularity. A lot of companies that I saw first in the industry where their go-to was to, find something that would be in a powder, 30 servings, and kind of put the onus on the consumer to add that powder to, water, shake it up, shaker bottle. You're seeing more now, even in the sports nutrition side, some of these pre-workout formulas that are now put in cans and, you can find them in your gas stations as RTDs, ready to drinks, some protein shakes that are growing in popularity and have shelf space once again, and even convenience stores. And so we're also seeing that as a potential for protein products. We're also seeing that as a potential for kind of green powders and smoothies and things like that, to be able to put those in RTDs. One of the last things that I think too is just also seeing the bar space and how the bar space has grown. And once again, people have always, I think, been doing that, but I think there's a broader range of the kinds of ingredients and the desire to put those ingredients in kind of bar spaces to kind of fulfill the need for like different snacking applications, as I alluded to earlier. Just because, once again, I'm just surprised, and I've seen it in myself, that I had this assumption that because I would be working from home, as I've seen from others, that I would have increased time to really cook, just do whole meals completely all the time. And I find myself still, sometimes sitting working and having a need for health products in the form of different snacks. So we've definitely seen that continue to grow. If it's not completely new, what I definitely have seen is that it's not seeming to slow down at all.
So John, when sourcing ingredients, what is it that you are looking for, and why are you looking for these certain ingredients?
That's a great question. And that, I think, kind of pulls on, I would think, the strength of of our company particularly, but also attest to the strength of some of the ingredient partners that we've had a chance to work with and talk to. And what I mean by that is that the first thing that we're looking for is first going to be great clinical studies. We work all of our ingredients starting with clinical studies, especially because when it gets to us in a final finished good, we have to rely a lot on the clinical studies, not just obviously for claims, but also as the defense for the product's efficacy, the product's safety. And so those things really matter to us. And so when we look at the clinical studies, we're looking to see if there was, enough of a population to generate strong enough power. We're also looking for the clinical endpoints. Well, whatever the ingredient is measuring, whether it's joint health, whether it's some sort of mood support ingredient, we want to know what the scales are that people are using, that the researchers are using, to see if we can see any sort of statistical significant effect in an appropriate kind of time frame as well. Obviously, we would love for everybody to adhere to our recommendation to take our products for 3 months to see some sort of benefit that is truly there and truly helpful. But we all know that the market doesn't work like that people want to experience the help now. And so if we get a chance to find some solution, of course, that makes sense in a time frame where things are working either, for mood type ingredients the same day, within a few hours. When it comes to things like joint health, if things are working 2 to 3 weeks, something that's reasonable enough that gives us a chance to educate our customers about that and give them hope and convince them that this would be a good idea to take. So we're looking for all of that and getting signs for that in the clinical studies. And then once we get that and get a sense that there's at least statistical significance, we then want to see if there's what we call kind of clinical significance. So just because, the statistics work and the clinical study was well designed, what happens when we actually give it to people? Are they going to be able to see that? And so we're able to often run consumer trials or in-house kind of user tests on our product concepts or on actual single ingredients themselves, where we'll put and recruit quite a few people to kind of do this kind of clinical trial to see if the ingredient actually registers some kind of benefit with our customers and our target age range, our target demographic. And so we do all of that oftentimes before we start having the conversation fully on pricing and go down the road with manufacturability, even though those things are also really important as well. Like I said, I know that we have had a lot of ingredients that we would like to consider in alternative dosage forms, gummy formats, food formats, functional foods. And so then we have the other questions with regard to like stability and the ability for these ingredients to endure some rough manufacturing processes. So definitely have high demands for ingredient suppliers when we're evaluating our ingredients, but really happy to say that I think our industry does a good job, that there are plenty of good ingredient suppliers like you guys yourselves that do that kind of work and give us the chance to, put something together that we can kind of keep customers on and keep helping customers out with their problems.
Well, we definitely really do appreciate what Veyl Ventures does and what you all stand for. All of our, our ingredient portfolio is all science-backed. We aren't going to put something out there that doesn't have the claims, doesn't have the clinical studies, especially with, I had already mentioned our NEM, but our other products. Earlier you mentioned gut health, and we just brought on a Lyon, which is a postbiotic, which has been super fun to launch and to actually learn what a postbiotic is and what it's doing. And so we just really appreciate your company and what you are doing, even education-wise for the consumer, because I think that's one of the end goals is, yes, we want to help them in their health and wellness, but we need to educate them to get there and why they are taking what they're taking. And so I have just really enjoyed our conversation. You have brought a ton of information, good stuff for us, and I know our listeners are going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for coming on, John.
Thank you guys again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, we will talk soon. You have a good one.